electronics box. It's got your starter solenoid in it. I'm gonna go ahead and see how that solenoid, oh yeah. How's it going, everybody? We're up at the lake again. So as you saw a couple weeks ago, the starter solenoid is bad on the JS550 JetSki. Got the new solenoid in last week, so we're gonna go ahead and pull the eBox out and replace this solenoid and get back on the water hopefully today. It's about 93 degrees out here right now, which I think in Celsius is like 32, maybe, something like that. I don't know. You guys still on the Celsius scale, I don't even understand it. Fahrenheit is the way to go. But anyways, we're gonna put this new solenoid on today and we'll get back on the lake. I'm confident in that. One thing before we get started here, don't forget to hit subscribe down below and the like button. Also leave a comment, let me know if we need to do some body work on this jet ski or not, or if I should leave it as is. It's got the original paint job on it here, but it's definitely seen some better days. I am thinking about doing the body work on it eventually, but I don't know. I like to have things that are a little beat up because then I don't have to worry about getting new scratches on them when I'm out on the water or it's docked somewhere. So on the JS550, they've got what they call an eBox here, electronics box. It's got your starter solenoid in it, it's got your ignition coil in it, and it's got basically the circuitry that runs your starter switch as well as the stop switch, and then also a rev limiter on this model. What we're gonna do today is we're gonna pull this eBox out of here. We're gonna crack open the case basically and replace that starter solenoid. So speaking about the metric system here, there are a metric ton of 10mm bolts you've got to take apart in order to get inside that eBox. Since what we're trying to do is pull the eBox out of the jet ski to work on it on the bench, we're going to work on the ones just to get it out of here first, and then we'll take it apart on the bench. So we got to get the plug wires unplugged here, and there are 4 different bolts that actually hold the eBox to the hull here on the jet ski. Also make sure you got your battery disconnected. I got the negative already disconnected over here. You don't want to have a spark happen inside the engine cavity here as you're working on this. So we'll get this first one here. It's a long bolt. Pull that guy out. We'll get these other ones off here and get this guy out of here. As you can see, somebody did some RTV repair in this a long time ago. That wasn't my job there, but the last time I had the eBox apart, I noticed the white connectors that go into the eBox here were broken on this guy. Looked like somebody sealed it up there. I think they had a water intrusion issue before, because the last time I had this eBox apart, you could see there was quite a bit of residual moisture and rust in there from before. So it's something you want to keep sealed up. Obviously out on the water, on the fresh lakes, you don't really have to worry about it all as much. But it is something that once you get moisture in there, you'll get that rust to accumulate and eventually cause problem with the electronics in there. Just some electrical connectors. We'll see if we can get those out. If not, then we're gonna have to rip it apart. There we go. So these guys here, one or the other, I don't know exactly which one is which here, but these are either the start-stop switch or the rev limiter. As you can see, I've repaired these ones before here because they had actually broken off and corroded. This one looks like it's kind of on the way out there as well, but we'll work on that some other time. And then down here below, we've got another thing. I think this is the, I don't know what that is, if that's the rev limiter or whatever that is, but basically you've got these 3 connections you got to pull off of there. I've also got another bolt down here that holds on the choke cable, so we're going to go ahead and just detach that from the eBox here, just to give us a little more flexibility to move this around. Okay, one more connection down here on the, actually 2 more. Down here on the starter solenoid itself, we're going to take off the starter post here, and then we're going to remove the positive battery terminal here as well. Actually, another connection down here on the bottom. Two more here. We got to get both of these guys off of here. All right, see there's another connection up inside here. So you do have to remove that housing on the outside there in order to get at this connection. And again, that goes up to the stator. Also, I think the timing for the spark comes through this connection here as well. But there we go. We got the eBox off there itself. We're gonna go ahead and break into this guy and replace that starter solenoid right here. And we'll be back on the water in no time. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and bust into this. First thing I'm gonna do, because we're gonna reuse these nuts over here, is I'm gonna go ahead and pull these nuts off, and let's just confirm that they fit on here. Yep, that is good. So that's a good first sign there. Get these nuts right off of here. There's these plastic isolators on here too. You don't want to forget to put those back on, because this guy could end up being grounded here. This is a metal eBox there, so you don't want to ground out against that. We're gonna have to flip the eBox over. Really, we've just got these two additional screws on the side here. We're gonna take those off. One thing we did last year when I had this apart to fix the kill switch coil in there, I ended up RTVing it back together along with the plastic gasket that was in there, really because you could see where some water was getting in. So it was either getting in up here or around that gasket as well. Just kind of as a best practice moving forward on this eBox, I always RTV it back shut when we put it back together, because I don't want water getting in there. You'll see in a second when I pull it apart, the rust can get pretty pervasive up inside there and really get into a lot of the different components. So we're going to go ahead and try to bust this apart here. Might need a screwdriver with that RTV on there, but we'll see. Okay, we've got the eBox apart now. A couple different things to talk about in here. So here's where our starter solenoid is. This is what we're going to be replacing. And then I had actually pulled that apart because we had issues with that stop switch and the solenoid grounding out last year. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect what we can on this guy and transfer some parts over to that solenoid. And we're going to get the new solenoid put right in here. Well, that's not good. That screw there seems to be pretty well seized up inside of this other component here. And might need to wing it here with where we're going to connect this ground up next for the solenoid itself. Just as a quick comparison before we pull it completely apart. So there's the new solenoid. There's the old one there, and for the most part, I mean, they look exactly the same. Yep, I think that'll do a good job there for us. Also worth noting is on the new solenoid here, you've got your power. So this comes from your switch here to turn the solenoid on. You've got this for a ground. So what we want to do here is we've got the power here on this, basically this white wire from the JetSki, and this black here. We want to effectively, you know, this guy, good. It looks like they've already got a barb connection on the end of here, which might be a little bit smaller. We might need to do a little bit of work to get that to work. But this eyelet over here, we're going to hook up right to this guy here. On the other side of it, you've got basically two different wires coming off here, and they've also got like two different connection splices kind of going in here for the main power. So we're going to have to work on that. Hopefully we can get these off of here and just transfer these over. If not, we might have to do a little bit of work to get that to work just right. All right, we had to take a quick trip to the hardware store because we ended up breaking off one of the eyelets down here. Bought some eyelets, also bought some bullet splices here because we might need to put a new connection or so on here. If we don't, that's fine. You know, we'll just take these home with us And then also got some butt splice connectors here just in case we need those. So we're gonna get this thing back and running here, and we're gonna try to splice everything back into where it should be. All right, so one of the things we're gonna do here, this wire, I could not get this screw out of here. Rather than breaking that off, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut this guy off here, and I'm gonna end up butt splicing that into the new black wire here. So we'll go ahead and just cut this ringlet off here and get the butt splice set up on us there. Better than having this terminal hanging out here. Even if I cut it off there, I don't like the fact that that wire could just be kind of hanging out inside there with these other 12-volt wires running around. So rather kind of cut losses and have the butt splice be what's holding this together here. We'll put a little electrical tape around it too, just to make sure that she's nice and protected from shorting out on anything. You know what? I'm just going to forget about this guy. I mean, it's already cracked, plus we got RTV built up around the edges here. If I try to scrape it off, I'll probably just end up breaking this more. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay a bead of RTV around this perimeter here and then put it together. And then we'll just tighten it lightly, let it sit for an hour. And then once we go put it on, we'll tighten it down nice and tight. And it'll squeeze the rest of that RTV out of there. One final sanity check before we put this back together. Got the black and the blue wires are going through the socket that does not have the plastic connector in it. That's out on the ski. I've got the used to be white wire, but it's the change of the yellow and red here, and another ignition battery wire here, this orange one coming out there for the ignition switch. And then we've got the stop switch over here. So we're gonna go ahead and assemble this guy and just lightly put down the screw torques on there just to get it seated for now. And we're gonna go ahead and put the eBox back inside the JetSki. And I'm just gonna get everything hand tightened down, and then we'll let it sit an hour, and then we'll crank her down. Got to be careful when you put these back together, because as you can see, some of those wires wanted to get in my way, and it's a very tight space inside there for all the components. You don't want any wires laying over top of the coils in it when you put it back together. So we've got it sandwiched back together here now, and we're going to go ahead and whoop, oh boy, we don't want that either. So there's a wire that's popping out the side here, and with RTV this turns into a mess, but that ought to seal just fine once we tighten it down. And we'll go ahead and just get her hand tightened here. let's go ahead and get her mounted back up to the ski. Don't need that solenoid anymore. Make sure we got the right colors here. So we've got black and red and the orange and white. That's coming up off the front here. We've got the orange and yellow and red back here. So that's this guy, because that was actually white before. We changed the wire out. Then we've got the blue and black down here below. So we're gonna get the eBox mounted up and then get these connections remade. Interesting. Found a little issue here. So my guess is, I know there used to be a jumper that would go up to the eBox here. I bet you this little guy has been broken on there this whole year. So I know the solenoid was clicking in there when we would hit it, so I'm assuming the solenoid was bad. But something also weird, that this jumper just happens to be broken here as well. So we're going to go ahead and put a new terminal on into this guy and get that reassembled as well. Yep, actually right here. So I look at it, we got the ring terminal broke off on the end of that at some point. I don't think it happened today. We'll go ahead and fix that anyways. That's an easy fix here. Get out of here, B. Home stretch. Okay, we've got all the connections back together on the old girl here. We're gonna let this RTV set up for a little bit longer, and then we're gonna go ahead and tighten down all these bolts one more time. But before we do, I'm gonna go ahead and see how that solenoid, oh yeah, takes right off and doesn't need multiple hits of the button, and she fires, so that's good. All right, everybody, we are all tightened up in here. Got the last of the RTV squeezed out in there. We're gonna go ahead and put the cover back on. We are gonna launch this jet ski, and I am 100% confident she's gonna start up the first time as we're out in the water here. Well, the weather was perfect here this evening. Able to get the ski out here for one last ride this weekend. After switching out that starter solenoid, everything is looking good. So she is good for the rest of the season, and hopefully next year we'll see how everything goes. Thanks for watching and have a great time out on the water.